Hello friends, Stevie B here. Today I'm going to walk you through one of my dramedy tracks and I'm going to show you exactly how I built it from the ground up. If you're into writing quirky orchestral cues for TV or sync, those playful, sneaky tracks that you hear in reality shows and light comedy moments, this video is for you. I've written a lot of different dramedy cues this year. Some are very minimal, others blend into genres like hip hop or Latin, and others stick closer to that classic orchestral style. The track that I'm going to show you here, it's called Jelly Bean Heist, definitely falls into that traditional category, but it's one where I decided to put in a lot of extra effort, and I'm really glad that I did. This one was written for Artlist. I'm happy to say that it's been performing really well on the platform. So in this video, I'm going to break down my writing process. I'm going to show you how I layer different instruments, and I'm going to share some tips on what makes these dramedy tracks work really well in a sync context. Okay, let's dive in. So I won't play the entire track start to finish, but maybe I'll just play the last minute or so, and you'll get the idea. What I'll generally do is sketch out the entire track just using the pit strings alone before adding any other instrumentation. That'll give me a really clear idea of the structure and the pacing right from the start. So in this track, I used a combination of tight and dry patches from Abbey Road strings. And then I'm also using roomier ensemble patches. In this case, Aperture strings, which sounds like this. So blending the two, you have that nice contrast of, upfront plucky detail and then a bit of space behind it. And of course, pizzicato isn't the only string articulation that I'm using here. I'm also making good use of these tremolo strings, which really help to build tension and, build dynamics. They really make the track come alive. So just using an ensemble patch for that, Spitfire chamber strings. And then we also have full ensemble staccato strings doubling the pizz parts. Not across the whole track, but specifically in the A sections. And this is just to, help beef it up, help reinforce the rhythmic impact, and make the section feel like a bit more energetic. And using the Abbey Road strings in combination with the chamber strings there. So let's talk about the top line melody. I wanted to find something that was kind of folky, but that would also blend in with the orchestral vibe. So I reached for the Mellow Mando by Orange Tree Samples. Really nice library. As with most guitar libraries, it doesn't sound super realistic on its own. I think it would have been really fun to actually play a real mandolin, even though I can't play mandolin at all. So in this case, a VST would obviously come in handy. And this sounds nice. It blends in with the track really nicely, but on its own, it sounds like this. So I worked out the top line melody with the mandolin. And then, as you'll see here, I kind of reinforce that with some other instruments as well. We have an organ underneath this mandolin, which really isn't, doing a lot. It kind of adds some percussive energy to the track almost, just kind of punching those chords. And this is an Omnisphere patch, I believe. Dusty Wheels too. So moving on to the woodwinds and the mallets. These were the real challenge for this track, probably what took me the longest. With the woodwinds in a dramedy track, the challenge is always to make them feel conversational. And in this case, I've got bassoons, clarinets, and flutes, each doing something a little different. I'm definitely no expert when it comes to arranging for woodwinds, but I think the key is just to be mindful of each instrument's register and personality. What I tried to do here is have the flutes handle The playful, fast trills. They bring that kind of light, mischievous character. The bassoons, on the other hand, are quite simple. They almost function like a bass line. They kind of ground everything and add a bit of humor at the low end. And the clarinets are somewhere in between. Sometimes, joining the rhythm, sometimes, outlining some melody, sometimes answering the melody with little interjections or trills. The back and forth is really what keeps the cue feeling conversational and alive, and almost like kind of like a dialogue between characters. And I think the mallets are actually kind of the secret sauce in this track. There's quite a bit going on in this section. Celesta, glockenspiel, marimbas, and xylophones, all kind of sprinkled throughout. And in certain sections, the mallets are kind of having a conversation with the woodwinds. When you're writing dramedy, you don't just want everything to be kind of like doubling lines, playing the same thing. You really have to think of these different instrument groups as being, unique and important voices in the conversation. Especially when I'm moving out of the A section, for example. Let me just solo all of this. I've got the mallets kind of echoing or answering some of the woodwind phrases. And it really creates this lovely sense of momentum and interplay. So that kind of subtle interplay just really makes a huge difference in how playful and cohesive the cue feels. Now, something that I had not done before in a dramedy track is add electric guitars. Definitely a little unconventional. I wasn't sure if it would work, but in the end, I think it adds a lot of character, gives this track sort of like, a modern, quirky edge. It sort of sets it apart from more traditional orchestral dramedy. I'm just using 2 electric guitar VSTs. Again, on their own, they don't sound like, super authentic, but they blend in well. So I've got this Outlaw guitar patch. I'm using the Novella Blackwater library from Westwood Sounds. Very, very cool library. I should do a proper review of this one at some point. So kind of like a Western feel with that like tremolo. And then I have the Electric Mint by Native Instruments doing these low plucks. So I think it kind of works. It's a little different, but yeah, I like it. And lastly, the percussion, which was definitely a little tricky. It took me a while to get it together. I wanted to keep the percussive vibe, mostly orchestral, to stay in line with, the other orchestral elements of the track. But I also have some intimate elements as well, specifically these congas, the shakers, the guiro. So those are pretty tight and dry, but behind all of that, we have all of these percussive orchestral elements. For that, I use the BBC Orchestra percussion, which I was excited to do because I'd never used BBC Orchestra. I don't know. It was kind of one of those like regret purchases. And I've had it all this time. I really don't use it that much, and it came in handy in this track. So there you go. It is a nice sounding library, but I just definitely don't use it that much for like strings and brass. So the BBC percussion on its own, this kind of stuff. I'm also using the Symphony series percussion library quite a bit. We've got some like timpani rolls, cymbal rolls, that kind of thing. So very, orchestral sounding snare and cymbals there, which kind of give the whole thing, a lot of appropriate space. And I feel like the orchestral vibe of the percussion kind of helps, give the track like the proper momentum without taking over the mix. That was really important too. It's really not a dominant aspect of the mix whatsoever. So there you have it. That's the anatomy of this dramedy cue, from pit strings to mallets to guitars and percussion. If you're working on your own dramedy tracks, my biggest takeaway would be just start simple, build the skeleton with your strings, and most importantly, keep it fun and conversational. That's what makes these cues so useful and really enjoyable to write. If you want to dive deeper into this style, I actually have a full dramedy course that walks you through the entire process, from first idea to finished master. The course also comes with a full MIDI pack, a Logic track template, a Cubase version coming soon. You can grab it as a standalone course at productionmusictools.com or get access to it along with over a dozen other sync production courses across different genres by joining the Production Music Academy. All those links are in the description below, and feel free to hit me up if you have any questions about it. Thanks so much for watching. If you got something out of this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to let me know what you're working on. Let me know how you're doing. It's always good to hear from you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.